So, I'm sorry you had to wait so long on me. I've learned something. I'm sorry I had to learn it at your expense, which seems to be the pattern of learning. I can't have my computer on I have to reboot my computer fresh before I can do anything, especially before I do a video chat. So that was all due to my computer freezing, and I apologize. Quite annoying to you. So next time, this has never happened before, but always freshly reboot your computer if you're doing one of these. So I was talking about how important it is to somebody answer me whether we went through the holding your hand up as a way of teaching the husband to not interrupt. Somebody let me know whether we did that. But it's incredibly important to stop people in the process of interrupting if we're in a ongoing relationship, because it utterly prevents loving. And so as I discussed with this woman, she has to absolutely stop her husband every time he does this. And so I recommended to her that she, put her hand up in front of her face immediately every time he does that, and explain to him that oh, good. So we didn't get that far. Good. So I recommended to her that every time he's about to interrupt her, that she put her hand up in front of her face and thereby indicate to him that something's wrong. It's pretty much impossible when two people are having a conversation for you to do this and not have the other person eventually say to you, what? As in, what's going on? In some circumstances, you might even go so far as, and I've done this on at least one occasion, suggested that the other person in a conversation carry with them a paper bag in a conversation. Now, this would be difficult to do at a dinner party, but in this one couple, for example, I suggested that she carry with her a paper bag, as in the kind you'd get at the grocery store. And if your partner interrupts you and you put a paper bag over your head, your partner pretty much gets the message that something is wrong, don't they? So you could do the paper bag thing, but it's kind of dramatic. Or you can simply do this. And notice there's a really big difference between going like this, which is indicating that something is wrong, and doing this, which is pushing your hand towards somebody, which is aggressively stopping them. Because like we talked about, the point when somebody interrupts you is not to stop them. See, that's substituting one getting and protecting behavior for another. People will often say to me, how do I stop my partner from interrupting me? Well, see, then what you're doing is you're substituting your controlling for their controlling. And which is better? So you don't cure hate with hate. So that's not how you do it. So when he's interrupting you, you put your hand up like this, and he will say, how long can you conduct a conversation like this? It's just impossible. It looks absurd. And when he says, what? You say, I wasn't finished with what I was saying. Now, almost certainly he'll say, well, but I was only, and then he'll give you some brilliant justification as to why his comment was somehow relevant or pertinent or germane to what you were saying. It's irrelevant. So then what I taught her was, she just is to say, I wasn't finished. Then he's going to say, but, and he's going to again tell her how brilliant his comment was, how it related to what she was saying. And then I said, you keep repeating, I wasn't finished. Can you wait to make your comment until I'm done? One husband kept saying, well, but I may not remember it until you're done. And my point to him was, nobody cares. Really. He looked at me and he said, how can you say that? And I said, nobody on the planet cares how much you know. Nobody does. Really. The only thing that your wife cares about is whether you care about her. That's all. So pretty much be quiet. Nobody cares how much you know. So pay attention to her, care about her, and that's all she wants. She really doesn't care how brilliant you are. You think she does. You think everybody cares how much you know, and nobody does. So you put your hand up and you say, I wasn't finished. Because it's important that he learn how to listen to you. And it's also important that he understands that really nobody cares how much he knows. It's an important point about loving. And we're going to continue till 10:30 or so because I screwed up. Here's Brian from London, and I don't know if that's London, England, or London, Ontario, or who knows, London, Georgia. I've been troubled recently. A year ago, I met a girl that I very soon fell in love with. Unfortunately, she was living with someone else, and despite my conscience, I pursued her. That can be a real problem. It turns out that her relationship with her boyfriend at the time was not very committed, so I carried on pursuing her. To say it like this sounds so bad. Maybe. But she seemed to be everything that I was looking for, and I was so strongly drawn to her that it made everything seem right in my mind. When we're in need, when we want something bad enough, everything seems justifiable. Well, eventually she left him, for which I feel quite guilty, and we continued our relationship. During the same period, I lost my mother suddenly, and I've been devastated. I'm hurting so much that even to type this message to you, I must be brief. Things did not go well between myself and this girl, and we have recently split. I was amazed when I found your video on YouTube about anger because I had so much anger during my difficult relationship over the last year. Then, when I found all the materials on your website, I felt like I'd been transported to a new planet. Welcome to the planet. Where finally everyone spoke sense. I've been guilty of engaging in all the unhealthy practices of imitation love, and I've reaped the benefits which basically amount to nothing. So my point is that I finally got it. I feel it was too late to save the relationship I had such hope for, but I just hope that it will lead me to an even better one. Oh, what a man. Somebody asks me periodically, so what does it look like to be a real man? It looks like this. Real men tell the truth about themselves. Real men commit themselves to at least growing in the process of feeling unconditionally loved and being more unconditionally loving. And that's what you're doing. So way to go. And what you're describing is exactly how people find real love and grow in it, which is to tell the truth, do what you're doing here. I mean, this is delightful. So congratulations on this process. And you described that, as you learned about real love, it just seemed to make sense. And of course it does. We all within us have an innate ability to feel the truth. It simply feels right. It feels good. We have an ability to discern truth, to know it when we hear it. And you know it. You can feel it. You know that it's true. And you're right that it's also a different planet, because most of the world does not live in truth. Most of the world lives according to imitation love. They trade it, they buy it, they swim in it, they drink it, they eat it, and they believe that it's true. They believe that eventually, if they get enough imitation love, they will be happy. And as we know, that's not the case. So, welcome to a new way to live. That's very exciting. So I'm tickled for you. Here's somebody who says, I've been trying to love and teach my 7-year-old child, but tonight I honestly did not know what to do. I know why he's acting up. He doesn't feel completely loved by me. But, and then the question got cut off, so I'll have to wait till I get to the rest of it. Deanne said, no use in just sitting here. I was in huge fear this past weekend with my husband. I wasn't listening to him and was defending myself. I was attacking. I made a call and was seen by my real love brother. What I've learned this past week is that right now in my life, I am immobilized by fear. I have been so afraid to make the wrong choices, even about small stuff, that I've just stopped making decisions. My new choice is to make a call when I feel fear coming on, even the little fears. What an amazing thing love is, and to have so many people in my life that actually can see and love me. Most people have been immobilized by fear for their entire lives. And we've sat in it, swum in it, been surrounded by it for so long that most of us don't even recognize that we are afraid all the time. I was talking to a lady recently who's been in a terrible marriage, who's been in a terrible life, all of her life. She's been in therapy for years, she's been unhappy, and she was describing her life, and she was talking about how, at one point I said, gosh, you really are afraid of whatever it was. And I said, and frankly, you've been afraid of people your whole life. You're just afraid, period. And she looked at me and said, I am. I'm afraid all the time. She said, I've been in therapy for, 32 years, and nobody's ever told me that. She said, how do you know that? I said, it's in your voice, it's in your body posture, it's in your eyes, it's in the words you use. You radiate fear with every action, word, expression, posture, everything about you. You're afraid constantly. And it affects everything. Your relationships, the way you feel, what you say, what you do. It's destroying you. And like Deanne says, it affects the little things. It affects the big things. It's paralyzing. So what do? You start taking steps. You have to move. Brian was saying, I recognized the truth, and here he is. He's on a Real Love video chat, and he's telling the truth about himself. So what do I recommend for Brian? Do what he's doing. He comes on the video chat, he tells the truth about himself, and now what I could recommend that you do, Brian, is that you come back on the website and you go to the teleconference calls, and you can find a list of those somewhere on the website, and you go on the conference calls and you ask people for their email addresses. You ask people for their phone numbers. You get to know people. You talk to them one-on-one and experience what it's like to have a real family. Blood families are great. Actually, sometimes they're terrible, but because usually our blood family's got us where we are now. But experience what it's like to have people who unconditionally love you. We can find them. We're actually, all of us have the seeds of a capacity to be unconditionally loving. And as people come to us and ask to be unconditionally loved, that's where we develop our abilities to be unconditionally loving. So, thank you to you, Brian, for giving us the opportunity to love you here in virtual space. And as you participate in these calls, you get the opportunity both to be loved and to be loving. Use these people. Deanne, use these people. Feel more loved. Love them. This is all a very real and powerful process. So here's the rest of that question. I've been trying to love and teach my 7-year-old child, but tonight I didn't know what to do. I know why he's acting up. He doesn't feel loved by me. But he couldn't have a toy that he wanted, so he tried to choke me as I was driving. I couldn't figure out what to do, so I did nothing. Well, you can't do anything while you're driving, and so you have to immediately stop. A child who would choke you is pretty clearly telling you that he's not feeling loved. And so whatever you're doing, if you're on the interstate, you find the closest exit. If you're on a regular road, you pull into a gas station. You pull into a parking lot. You do whatever it takes. You turn around, you look the child in the eye, and you say, what is it you need from me? And you don't do it in anger. You touch the child in the knee. You put your nose right up to the child's nose. You hug the child. You give the child a kiss. What we normally do when a child chokes us is to say, you can't do that. I'm going to punish you. We yell at the child. We do all of those things, forgetting that a child who would lash out like that is clearly not feeling loved. So sit with the child and rock the child, hold the child, do whatever it takes, and then say, you must have been feeling pretty angry. Choke the child. Does it say that the child wanted something? Don't know. But you talk to the child about what is it that you wanted. Very likely all the child wanted was your attention. If there's a principle to be taught in addition to loving the child, then you teach the principle. If the child said, for example, the child choked you and said, I would like to have a herd of sheep live in my room. That doesn't mean that you love the child and kiss the child and then move a herd of sheep in with the child. You don't always give the child the thing they want. But in any given moment, you can always love the kid. I mean, a kid who would choke you is feeling pretty empty and afraid, wouldn't you say? So you stop whatever you're doing, and you certainly don't do nothing. And the reason you did nothing because you were paralyzed by two things: fear and ignorance. You just didn't know what to do. I mean, who in your life had ever set an example of loving? And that's pretty scary. When nobody's ever shown us what to do, we're dead. We got nobody to follow. So Brian, if you have more questions, you get the email addresses of people and they'll give you some clues. I think it's very cool that you're doing this after just discovering it on your own. Here's somebody who said, I just listened to Tuesday's video chat. That's last Tuesday's video chat. That was the one that worked all the way through where we didn't have to reboot 3 times. That wasn't this Tuesday's video chat because they couldn't have listened to it because, it was mute most of the time. And they said, I know that I'm a huge victim. I do almost every behavior to excess and have been noticing particularly that I have an enormous desire for safety and I'm ridiculously shy and bumbling when I try speaking to people. Now, I'm going to interrupt here for a second, which I get to do because when it's in writing, I can interrupt anytime I want to. And suggest that you don't be too critical of yourself here. Notice, for example, that you say that you're ridiculously shy and bumbling. Well, what if instead of ridiculously shy, what if you're understandably shy? Shyness is just a form of running. And it's all a reaction to pain. You're running from your pain. And who doesn't respond to pain? If I stick a hot poker in somebody's side, no matter who they are, it becomes the center of the universe to them, and they will respond. They will. Now, some people will run away. Some people will turn and fight, but they will respond. So I suggest to you that you're not ridiculously shy, but understandably so. You learned as a child to run. So she continues. I understand that I should, I love that word, I should push myself to be out there more, but I'm truly frightened to be. Well, of course. When you're terrified, of course you run away. And having people tell you that you should be more assertive is like insane. Should? Again, going back to the drowning man, how helpful is it to walk up to somebody who's drowning in a pool and say, you should be swimming better? Yeah, I think he already knows that. She continues, do you have any suggestions as to how to start? A complication to this lies in the fact that I'm also a big clinger. Now, that sounds contradictory. How can you be a runner and a clinger? Doesn't that sound impossible? Cling, run? How do you run and cling at the same time? And then she says, in the last video chat, you gave the suggestion that clingers should shut up. So she's confused. I cling, so you're telling clingers, the clingers should be quiet and quit clinging to people. She says, I'm a runner and I'm shy, so I'm already shy and I already shut up. So how does this work up? How does this work out? But then she gives us a clue. She says, I shut up with the people I'm close to, and I push myself out to speak to others. So see, here's the thing. She's not quite explaining it to us, but I'm going to explain it to you. It makes perfect sense. When you're around people who are not completely familiar to you, you shut up and withdraw. That's when you run. These are the people you don't feel safe around because you're afraid they might hurt you. When you're around people you know, where you're familiar with the exchange of imitation love, you cling to them and hang on to them for dear life. In fact, you become a vampire and suck them dry. See? That's how you can cling and run. Make sense? So, you're on the field of death with both of them. So you're screwing up with either one, and they're not contradictory behaviors. It's actually just kind of variations on the same thing. You die either way. Because one group of people you suck dry, but even though you suck them dry, you're not getting anything from them. Because what you're getting is imitation love when you cling to them. So, you have different solutions for both people. With the people you cling to, with your family and others, where you suck them dry, you have to learn to shut up there. with those people. Around the people that you're most afraid of, it all comes down to the simple formula for real love. Tell the truth about yourself with both people, the people you cling to and the people that you're afraid of. You simply tell the truth about who you really are. And then you simply allow people to either love you for who you really are or hate you. For example, like I said with cleaners. With cleaners, I said, shut up, yeah, and then simply allow the people who will love you if they will. You do that with your family. For example, with cleaners, I would say things like, when it comes to Christmas and stuff, quit giving presents. I would tell that to every cleaner on the planet. Quit it. Quit doing Christmas presents and birthday presents and all this stuff, because cleaners overdo them. Cleaners go out and serve people and do things for them and try to please everyone. But what do they get out of it? Nothing. Just exhausted. And if they please everybody, at the end of it, all they do is count up all the people that didn't give them enough in return. Whereas when you're around strangers, what I suggest is you actually talk about yourself some. Not the kind of bragging talking about yourself. Oh, I'm a great person. Let's see, I got a degree in, anthropology from the University of East Brunswick. No. Tell the truth about your mistakes, your flaws. Talk about, I'm not especially good with money. I had an argument yesterday with my boyfriend. It was my fault, though. I was being selfish. Not your entire life history. Single sentences like that. I was really selfish with my boyfriend. You'll find out in 3 seconds whether somebody's interested in the truth. Because if they say, what are you talking about? That person's not interested in the truth. They'd rather talk about beer and football. Whereas if they are interested in the truth, like Brian from London, who says, whoa, this is so cool, then he'll say, tell me about that. Tell me more about that. That's fascinating. He'll want to know more, and you'll have a fascinating conversation about the kind of stuff that really matters. So if you want to change your life, you have to be reaching out all the time, as much as possible, to find people who are willing to see you. And it's fun. Use the email list from the seminar that you attended. Use the teleconference calls. Ask people for the times that they're available. You can't just sit around and wait for people to contact you and change your life. Write them and say, so what would be a good time for you? Give me an idea. Sunday through Saturday. What are the good days that are available for you? And set up times. Whereas most people that I know do this. They send out one email to kind of a group, and then they go, well, nobody answered. Well, it takes more than once. Before I got my first book published, I was turned down by 134 book agents in a row. And I didn't just write 134 random book agents in a row. These were special book agents, all of whom indicated an interest in the kind of stuff that I did. And they all said, go stick your head in a toilet, till I found one that was interested. I've been turned down by thousands of people as we've done promotional stuff. You get turned down over and over. So what? So what if you find somebody who isn't interested in you? Big deal. You move on until you find people who are. So you really have to kind of extend yourself. It's new, it's strange, it's difficult. But what price is too big to pay for finding somebody who genuinely cares about you? And you don't have to do it all at once either. This weekend, I spent time with my parents in North Carolina. There can be an event happening that concerns my parents and my mother. That concerns my parents and my mother, as usual, needs to be right. So she will either verbally attack my father Or she will give those wonderful long sighs. We've all seen those. Prior to real love, I could not see this. This is utterly fascinating. I was working with. I'm going to just pause here and interrupt. I get to do this because it's in writing. I see this all the time as I'm counseling with people. I'll be talking to people and they will be saying, and I'll say, so tell me, what was your childhood like? And they'll describe it in these glowing terms. So, were your parents loving? Oh, yes. Yes, my parents were Ozzie and Harriet. I was raised by the Cleaver family. Everything was wonderful. And yet, the person who's describing this to me is angry, empty, afraid, in conflict constantly, couldn't possibly have been raised in a loving family, and yet they describe their parents as loving. This is simply impossible. I was talking to a lady recently who was describing her parents as simply wonderful people. Loving, kind, virtuous, charitable, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. All these things. Which is understandable. We want to defend our parents, partly because our parents told us to. If you don't speak well of us in public, we will kill you. We were taught that as children. And partly because we need them to be loving in our heads. If, after all, our own mothers didn't love us, then what does that say about us? We'd have to be like garbage, wouldn't we? So we tend naturally to speak of our parents as loving. But the more we talked about unconditional love, the more we talked about what it looks like, the more we talked about what unloving acts are, this woman started to go, oh my gosh, my mother did that. My father did that. My father did that. My mother did that. They did that, and they did that, and they did that. And finally she went, my parents were not loving. They didn't love me. I know. I said, but it's not horrifying. It's actually average. It's very common. It is the norm that most parents don't love their children. They simply didn't know how. We have come to describe our parents as loving because they were like other parents, because they were average. Well, the average parent is not loving. I've sometimes said to people, how do you know your parents were loving? Well, they provided for us. Yeah, we provide for pets. That doesn't mean we're loving. Let me continue with this. So here we got these parents, and he says his mother is attacking his father or doing those sighs, when he makes mistakes. Prior to real love, he says, I could not see this. I couldn't see this stuff that they were doing to each other. And now that I can, I just let it pass. Let it pass through me, and I don't interfere. My mom is like the dog you were talking about. She just automatically responds and does not even know she's doing it. I'll bet she doesn't. If you stopped her right in the middle of a conversation and said, do you have any idea how hateful that was, what you just did to Dad? She would look at you like you were speaking in some foreign tongue. She's been doing it for so long and so automatically she has no clue she's doing it. You're right. I wish I could help her. Funny, I talked to my dad about it, and he agrees that she cannot see the way she treats him. Nope. But he will not leave her. He tells me that he is married for better or worse. With emphasis on worse. The truth is that I can sometimes use real love to hide like a rock, not interfere, and just let people be. I need to find a way out of this spot. Maybe. Why do you need to find a way out of it? You really have no responsibility to change your parents. It sounds like you're talking to your dad. It says, I talked to my dad about it, and he agrees that she cannot see the way she treats him. It sounds like you have found a way to discuss this subject with him. So if you have found a way to talk to him about it, that's like pretty cool. I mean, most people find it very difficult to talk about real love to their parents without coming across as, like lecturing them. So the fact that you've been able to do that is like kind of amazing. So when you say you need to find a way out of this, I don't know. Maybe you don't. And you certainly don't have a responsibility to change your mother. And if she doesn't want to hear it, for you to intrude and to introduce the subject to her may be actually rude. So, I don't know. Maybe you do need a way out of it, but you'd have to give me a reason that you need to get a way out of it. Sounds like you're doing pretty well to me. Here's somebody who says, our 3-year-old has developed a habit of competing for attention by interrupting adult conversations, like when we're talking or one of us is talking to another adult. How do we help her to understand how and why to wait her turn? I, Jerusha, have tried explaining to her, do you hear Mommy and Daddy talking? Just wait X minutes until we're done, and then I'd be happy to help you. And lately, she'll just keep talking anyway. I've tried giving her a short explanation of why interrupting doesn't work. You don't get the attention you want, plus it's hard for us adults to finish talking. It takes even longer, so it's better to wait. We're coming down to resorting to the old squirt gun splash and the nose trick, which works wonders for screaming in the car. That's one way to do it. And that will work. I mean, you can explain to a 3-year-old that it's rude, it's unkind. You might, for example, let's say that she's speaking to you. You might even try this. You can't do this with any irritation at all. None. Let's say that she is speaking to you, and right in the middle of her speaking to you, or of her speaking to, let's say she's talking to her dad. So she's talking to her dad, and she's telling a story about something. You come right into the conversation with her dad, and you interrupt it. You come right in and you start talking to Andy and interrupt the conversation she's having in a way that it's really rude, so that she doesn't get to finish her conversation and she doesn't like it. And then you stop and turn to her and say, did you like it when I interrupted your conversation? And then she says, no. And you say, that's why you don't interrupt other people's conversations. So you do it at a separate time. You think about it. It's a teaching moment. And then when she goes to interrupt you at another time, you say, do you remember when I interrupted you? That's why you don't do it. So that's just one way to teach her. But you can't do it with a gleeful sense of revenge. That's not why you do it. You're doing it to teach her. Another way to do it is, for example, to just as a... And you can't do it all the time, because you don't want to be doing this till they're teenagers. But at age 3, for example, is to have an egg timer. And so you have a little egg timer, and you set it for, say, when they're really young, like 3 minutes. And then eventually, when they're older, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, you decide. But initially 3 minutes, and then longer, progressively longer as they get used to it. But as soon as they come up to you, you hand them the egg timer, you set it for 3 minutes, you hand it to them, and you say, when the egg timer goes off, you can come and get me, and I will listen to what it is you have to say. Indicating, because what that does is the dual thing. It shows them you will not be interrupted. They need to understand that when 2 people are speaking, you cannot stop them. It's rude. The egg timer shows that you are completely focused on her for that second, and that what she's about to tell you is important to you. So you give her the egg timer and you say, would you come back in 3 minutes, and then I'm going to look at you. I'm going to stop briefly my conversation here, although I may not stop it permanently, and I'm going to listen to what it is you have to say. A variation on that technique is you give them the egg timer and you say, go get a crayon and immediately draw a picture of what it is that you want to say to me, so that you don't forget, emphasizing again to her how important she is to you and that you really want to hear what she has to say. Again, the focus is on, I love you, I care about you, as opposed to what most parents do, which is, can't you see I'm talking? Well, see, the message in just, can't you see I'm talking is, up yours, go away, you're not important to me. Children respond very poorly to just, I don't care about you, go away. Like really poorly. Whereas the combined message of an egg timer, I am going to talk to you in 3 minutes, and then progressively longer. Then you go to 4 and 5. As they catch on to, you can't interrupt me. And go with a crayon, draw a picture of what you're going to tell me in 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. The combined message of that is, I do care about you. And I also care about the person I'm talking to. So do that, and then the interrupting her to show her what it's like to be interrupted, so that she gets the point. And I think you may get it across to her, but you have to be absolutely ironclad, rock-solid, consistent about not letting her interrupt you before you get this point across. So what we're going to do is, I apologize for the technical problems. Turns out I think we can prevent that by doing the reboot, but I nonetheless apologize for screwing that up. And we'll see you guys back next Tuesday, and look forward to it. Thank you all for your delightful presence, and we'll be seeing you in, we hope, Phoenix, August 2nd and 3rd, where we're going to have a thrilling parenting seminar. And it's been a delight. We love you. Thanks.